And us finest. I say, who that? R.I.P. Tom Benson. Shout out to the whole Who That Nation. Now who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. Oh, who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. I say who that? That fever, that flavor, that funk. You got that fever? Yeah, yeah, that fever for the flavor. Got that flavor? Yeah, yeah, that flavor for the funk. You got that fever? Yeah, yeah, that fever for the flavor. Got that flavor? Yeah, yeah, that flavor for the funk. I got that fever, my people. See, we not equal, my people. I'm like that dog saint underneath the steeple, my people. Got Drew Brees, he the feature, and our defense the sequel. The D-line and linebackers, man, they coming to reach ya. Make enemies some believers, cause we overachievers. DBs see 50-50 balls and we call them keepers. Y'all can follow this leader, cause Sean Payton will teach ya.
Talk listeners, what's up? We back for another week of Saints Talk. What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for jumping in and joining us. Sorry, late, a little bit late today. That's my fault. I know Nick was going to tell you guys anyway, so I'd rather be the one to put it out there. So thanks everybody for joining. We're here to talk some football. Nick, what's going on? What's the deal, bro?
You were going to get Rory and mauled if you didn't apologize. So.
Hey guys, listen. Nick was trying to fire me. I told him, I said, the people told me I ain't going nowhere. He stuck with me. We here. We riding this thing out. So guess what, man? You got to get used to this face and these arms and these sleeves. You know, all the stuff that come with it.
Minicamp's back, kind of, sort of, maybe.
You know, what did it feel like being around like football stuff? Let's start.
I was on a MacBook screen talking to people on his
Zoom. It was Zoom. I'm just saying, like virtually, just like. Just football stuff, just in general.
I mean, it's good to talk about some football stuff instead of theoretical football stuff. It's still kind of theoretical football stuff because they aren't really doing much on the field. It's classroom individual drills, no team stuff. So, I mean, it's at least something. It's a little bit of progress moving forward. Yep. Training camp's getting closer. Teams back together. They're in town. Things are coming together. Got the rookie class signed. I mean, it's progress. It felt like a holding pattern for quite a while there, but it's progress now. So yeah. I mean, that was a good thing.
So talk about you just brought up the first subject. So talk about them signing the rookie class and what they had to do to be able to make that happen. Because before, they were broke.
Yeah, look, I mean, in a weird way, Marshawn Lattimore sacrificing his leverage in his own personal situation, I think. Sort of worked to their advantage a little bit. I'm not sure that. So he agreed to rework his fifth-year option, spread it out over several years, probably cleared up about $7 million in cap space. And I'm not sure if he does that, if his situation isn't what it is right now.
Yeah,
you're sacrificing. And if we're just being real, if they need the money and they got to clear it up, and you're one of three places they can go to get an extension,
you got the leverage.
You got the leverage. And I think his situation changed to the point where he kind of felt the need to do the team a solid when they approached him. Your negotiating positions, it's somewhat weaker. On that scale of 1 to 10, everybody can do their own interpretation of how it changes. It's somewhat weaker, though, given his off-field status and possibly missing a handful of games. And, they went to him. They asked him to do that deal. He did it. They got the rookie class signed. And now suddenly they actually have enough money to go out and sign a couple of veteran players if they want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel kind of dumb about how nerve-wracking the situation seemed, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. We're talking about leading up to June 1st. What can they do to do it? And they just got to move done. And I didn't really see it coming because a guy needing a new contract, that isn't really an expected move. But given the circumstances, it does make sense that he would relent a little bit on his situation to do the team a solid and allow them to move forward. And frankly, I think it's kind of an important move because there really wasn't anything else they could do. They could have cut Latavius Murray. They could have cut P-Rob. Outside of that, you could try to trade some guys. There isn't a ton of savings on the books in those moves. So it was one of those three dominoes that really had to fall without weakening the team. And there was one there all along, and it was
Marshawn Lattimore.
Crazy. Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, when I saw you tweet the Saints have signed their draft class, I'm like, How?
Yes.
like there's details that are missing that I need to answer to. So Drake Kilpatrick, gosh, I butchered his name. Drake Kilpatrick.
Kirk, yeah. You got it. You got
Okay,
it.
all right. Some got to get on my game, man. Yeah, he came and visited the Saints. They're not doing on-field work as like against offense, defense. So my guess is, that was just more like I guess those visits are more like individual workouts. How does it work when a guy comes and visits a team, for instance? Do they just do like an individual workout and they sign them based on that?
Yeah, it's usually they're kind of just going through some individual stuff on the field after practice. You usually see it off to the side.
Okay.
During minicamp, it's usually there's a handful of guys that actually do like on field stuff. They're actually brought in for like tryouts during minicamp.
Okay.
But I would assume this is probably more like a regular season.
You
come in, you do your stuff off to the side. They decide to sign you or they don't. And
yeah.
He came, he visited, he left.
Oh, he's gone.
So,
okay.
We'll see. Yeah. Typically those guys sign while they're
there
in town, but maybe they're waiting for some money to clear up or something. So you never know, but they could always bring them back. But yeah, I mean, usually the deal gets struck and they stay, but we'll see. There is a need there. I think that they still desperately need to get somebody. I personally, I kind of favor Garyon Conley, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a huge need. Like, like I think they really. I mean, like I feel like any player that kind of comes in and visits the Saints, that's a cornerback, has the leverage. But in my head, the Saints are probably not thinking that way. Just based on how they operate. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if he's the only guy. I'm pretty sure he's not the only guy they're looking at, or if they prefer him over Sherman. I just kind of wonder like what their thinking is on that. I know you tweeted out that he plays cover 4, which is is one of the coverages the Saints play the most of. So seems like the fit would be there, and yeah, I guess it's just a matter of getting it done. But they really need to get somebody in at that position. So
Yeah, I mean, he was solid in cover 4, more in the off cover 4, where they play a lot more press cover 4. I think you can try to do some things. I also think that maybe there was some cost-driven exploration too. He's probably one of the cheaper guys that you can probably bring in. I think everybody right now is pretty cheap, but I think he's probably a little bit cheaper than some other guys. But I think there is somewhat of a fit there. At the same time, I'm not sure that you bring in anybody that's a certain answer right now, and you look for some traits. Maybe he had some traits that fit with what they want to do. I'm not sure he would have been running down the list. I'm not sure he would have been my first, second, third. But look, that doesn't mean anything. It's just maybe his fit here is better than it has been elsewhere. I mean, a coach might watch his tape and say, "Oh, well, look, he's making these mistakes because he isn't getting the safety help that he should be getting," or this is happening because it doesn't fit in the scheme, and maybe the Saints see something and have the right answer for him. Yeah. And maybe he hasn't had the proper answers throughout his career. I mean, that stuff happens. You can catch lightning in a bottle. You can get an Eli Apple type of run out of somebody, and maybe that's there in him. So you'd see, but yeah, I mean, that's not a signing where I go, you know what, it's solved. They're good. Super Bowl. No, I mean, it's just not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just feels like it's only really a few guys that are like out there. Conley, Sherman, obviously, Kilpatrick, Breland just signed with someone. I'm trying to think were there any more corners. I mean, for the most part, those Steve, did Nelson sign? I think Nelson is still out there.
Yeah, he's still out there, I believe. Yeah,
he's still out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get.
I think Breland's the only domino to really fall so far that I've seen as far as the corners. But yeah, there aren't a lot out there. Like I've seen nickel Roby Coleman.
Yeah,
I've seen his name bandied about. I kind of feel like he's more of a slot. I'm not really sure that would be an answer for them, unless I don't know they see something on the outside. But I mean, generally speaking, I don't really see the fit there right off the bat. So yeah, there's still options out there, and I gotta believe they're gonna get one or two, or they got to do something. They already signed one.
They got old Crawley back, man. I'm just saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
that old thing back. You just keep going back.
Hey, if you could get 2017 out of him, I'd take it. It'd be fine. You'd be fine at corner. You can get 2017 out of him.
If you
He
get
was really good in 2017.
Yeah, if you get 2017 out of him, that's the answer. Like no one else needs to come in.
Yeah, you aren't getting any picks out of that side, but you're solid. You're solid. You really are. Like honestly, you're really solid on that side of the field.
Why you gotta hit that man like that?
It's just the truth. That was the only problem in 17. And I swear to God, I thought he was coming back in 18, and it was just like you take his yards surrendered, the completions, the targets, and you add like 4 interceptions to it, and he would have had like something like a 62 passer rating against or something. Not even an absurd amount of interceptions. It was just like if he has the same season, adds 4 picks, like he's borderline a top tier number 2 cornerback. And
man, he don't want it though.
It didn't happen. It just went, everything else went away. The picks didn't come. And
Jameis throwing them picks right at him. He's like, nah, bro, I'm good. I don't want that. Don't be trying to throw me no interceptions.
Yeah.
I got a reputation around here. Oh man, that's funny. So yeah, we'll see what happens on the cornerback front. It's still a position of need. It's still yeah, it's just one of those things where if they go into the season without anyone there, then you just don't feel really good about it unless the rookie comes in and just, Marshawn's the thing. I don't know. We'll see. So, so some other things to get into. Give me your take on this. Zach Baun moving to Will. What do you think is their thinking behind that move? Is it let's give Pete Werner some competition? He's a better fit at Will. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just want to hear your take on it. What do you think about that move?
Well, I think they always saw him as a potential Mike or Will. I don't think the vision was ever for him to be a Sam linebacker.
Yeah, you don't draft Sam like linebackers in the 3rd round, right? Yeah,
right. And immediately when they drafted him, I think those were the 2 spots that were kind of envisioned for him. So if that's what the progression is, it makes some sense to me. Maybe in the long run, they see Pete as the Mike linebacker and him as the Will, and then that would put, obviously at some point DeMario is going to move on, and maybe you just kind of start with that progression. So we'll see how it goes for him. I know there's a lot of opinions out there about where moving guys around, drafting guys to do different things, but that's what he was drafted for. He wasn't drafted to be a pass rusher. So the expectation that he's going to be a pass rusher, I just don't think that really exists. It was never in the cards, and maybe they're wrong. It's very possible they're wrong. But to have a reaction about it right now today, like I just can't. I can't because I don't know what it looks like.
Yep.
If you tell me that they've already made Fast and the Furious 10, like I don't have an opinion on it because I haven't even seen 9 yet. You know what I mean? Like we didn't really see him do anything as rookie. We didn't really see a whole lot of it, at all. A couple handful of snaps as a Sam linebacker, and he played the run well. He made a couple of plays. Haven't seen the other thing. So until I do, hopefully it works. Yeah, hopefully it works.
That's a fair take.
You got to think so. Yeah,
that's a fair take. I think for me, I'll be honest. For me, I think that your point made me kind of pull back on my take because I'm.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what the thought.
Well, was. Listen. When I think about the Saints, one thing I think that stands out for this team is, how do I say? It feels like they always have a vision for a player, right? Like I feel like that's clear. Like when you look at guys that they draft or guys they sign in free agency, they have a vision for what they want to do with him, where they want him to play. And with Baun, I just don't get that feeling. It's he came in as a pass rusher. That's what he was in college, like most of the time. You watch this film, you have to find the coverage snaps for him, and you found some, and he looked like, okay, if he can continue to progress in this role, he can be an off-ball linebacker. And then so I don't, it always get weirded out by position changes, just starting off. Like you come in college, you did one thing, NFL, you're gonna do something different. Like, that's a college, the draft is already a projection. Now you're doing even more projections. So that's one thing. Two, he started at the Sam. So when they say that Sam, I'm like, Sam, okay, so you guys thought first round grade of him, but Sam is a 20% snap position, if that, right? So he's not going to really get a lot of snaps there. I think they say they want to eventually get him to Mike, and then now he's moving the wheel. So I wonder what the vision is, right? Did the vision change once he got in the building and they saw what his skill set was? Like, what's going on there? Why is this guy in his third position in 3 years? Like, what's going on there? And that's just the vibe that I get from that Baun situation.
I think last year was more just. I don't know if that's. I see what you're saying about the three positions, but I think last year was just kind of how do you get him on the field with the snaps in that role, and there was a little bit of a role for him to stop the run. And as a guy playing the edge, being able to do that, I don't really think it's a whole major transition. I think you're kind of, I mean, your view's a little bit more.
You
diagonal.
See more of the field,
it's not as flat, but it's not 360 yet.
Yeah,
and I think you kind of need to have a little bit more of that 360 view. Whereas it's Sam, you're kind of still just reading the gap and you're hitting it, and the odds of having to cover something in the passing game are pretty slim. And yeah, I mean, I don't think he spent time learning Sam last year. I think it was just kind of plugging a guy in at Sam, and you got to play somebody there when you're playing a run heavy team and you're expecting some run on first down, and maybe you don't think your safety can cover you against, say this year against a Derrick Henry, you're probably going to see more 4-3 looks than you would in a lot of other games.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll slot back there if he doesn't win one of those first two jobs. Look, I still agree with everything that we felt after the draft. I still feel like it's weird. I'm not understanding everything they're doing yet because they drafted the guy that seems like the Zach Baun replacement in some respects.
Yes.
Only two of those guys are really going to be playing.
Yes.
And
yes.
One of your draft picks
High
picked in the
draft
first
picks.
3 rounds of the last 2 years is not going to see the field very much. And how does that come together? Is it, look, if you're a year away from DeMario's departure or something, and you're going to be able to maintain that level of play with the guys you have, and you got 2 of them, cool. If we see that play out, if there's a year or 2 away and you're set, you got your longtime linebackers, cool. But look, if it takes 2 years for Zach Baun to start getting snaps, you drafted a guy and you're really only getting 1 year of production out of him on the rookie contract. Yeah. Maybe that's fine. Maybe it's okay. I don't know, but it feels like you should get a little more value out of that. And I don't know. We're going to see how it works out. It's hard to call it a success or a failure at this point, but it feels a little bit weird in the roster construction. And it's okay to admit a mistake. If there was a mistake made and you had to correct it within a year, better to correct it than to force something. But I mean, it doesn't alleviate the full mistake. It's credit for not compounding it, but a mistake is still made at some point or some level. And look, maybe it all works out. Maybe it doesn't. We don't know yet, but it feels a little off.
Yeah. And remember, they just signed DeMario to a 3-year extension, right? I think this is the first year of that extension. So, my guess is if you sign the guy to a 3-year extension, you expect him to be there for at least 2 of them. I think they have an out next year, like around $10 million in dead cap. So, yeah, I mean, they seem like they expect DeMario to be around for, at least a couple of more years playing at his level. And then, if you could draft a guy in the 3rd round, you're not expecting him to be good in year 3. And I think you were alluding to what potentially is a good point. Like, hey, sometimes you make a mistake. This happens. Like, these guys are crapshoots. And, if this is one of them, then identify it early and move on. And it seems like maybe that's what they did because they took a linebacker in the 2nd round, right? And they're playing the same position. If that was a good pick, then you don't take Pete Werner. If you're going to move him to Will and you feel like he's good there, you don't take Pete Werner. So I think you maybe just figured it out, right? Maybe they just admitted their mistake. They fixed it. And that's what you do when you make a mistake. Now, you got to cut him, right? Because maybe he shows up, whatever. But I think you maybe just figured it out. Like, you don't take Werner if Baun is fine.
Maybe Baun comes out balling. Who knows?
Who knows?
You never know. Yeah, you never know.
But the team is telling you what they think about Zach Baun. They told you a month, whenever the draft was. They told you, right, when they drafted that guy in the 2nd round. And I'm glad they didn't take him in the 1st. Speaking of 1st round picks, Cesar Ruiz is moving. He's going to stay at guard. So
he's focusing on guard.
Good point. I mean, I guess I can interpret that. Correct me if I'm wrong. As he's been playing guard thus far, and he projects that he will continue to play guard. I guess that's how I would.
But I still don't think it's set. I think you got to get on the field and show that improvement. And I don't even know if it's improvement, just competency at the position. Like,
stay in front of him.
Yeah. So, but he's focusing on it. So I don't know if it's set. Like, he's still got to play it well. But yeah, I think it's fair to interpret it as that's the plan right now. That he's preparing as if he's going to play guard. It's what he said. But at some point, it has to manifest. And I think there's still a possibility that, look, he hasn't done anything on the field as far as true blocking since the end of last season, and the end of last season didn't really end the way that you would, it wasn't like he was on this like huge upward swing. I think there were still issues at the end of the season.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see though. I think that's still probably one of the biggest concerns on the team. It's going to continue to be one, and absolutely. I don't know if it stops being a concern until like week 4 of the regular season. And I think I need to see a lot of consistency.
That's fair
to be a true believer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. By the way, guys, last week, weeks are just running together now. Summer's going by too fast. It's going to be cold soon. Nick wrote an article, Cesar Ruiz, kind of just breaking down some of his struggles, very like non-abstract, like details, exactly why, when, videos, evidence, basically a prosecutor making his case in the courtroom. Right. Guy got found guilty on all charges. Jury deliberated for like 30 minutes and they came back with a verdict. So check that out. It's a good read. I enjoyed it. I spoke about it at length last time, and I'm reminding you guys again if you guys didn't read it. Also, just real quick before I transition. Impossible question, but would you, right? Now, I'm not just saying what you think they should do. If you were the Saints, would you move him to center and try Mcoy at guard? Like, to start off with, like if Sean came to you and said, "Hey Nick, you the film guy, man. I need some advice here. Should I start Ruiz at guard, move at center, move Mcoy to guard, or keep guys where they were, at least to start, to kind of like get a feel?"
Tough question.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Mcoy at guard. I really do. And when they drafted Ruiz, I really, really like that idea of having him at guard, having that mobility. You can still get some of that from center, but you can do a whole lot more at guard. And that was extremely appealing to me. I know he's played really well at center, and there's a really strong case to not upset that and to just roll with the guy now instead of trying to upset. At this point, you're kind of upsetting two positions because he spent a lot of time processing and trying to learn as a guard. And now you got to kind of undo that and start back over. And now you're making rookie mistakes at center and trying to get the snap right. And you got a whole new quarterback and a guy that's never played center at the NFL level and never really had to do. I think that there's probably things about even the mic point that are a little bit harder and different at the NFL level than it is at college. Just some of the disguise and the way teams rush. And that stuff's probably all would be easy for him to pick up as a lifelong center, but it's a lot of stuff. And maybe it's just easier to kind of just keep it as it is and go forward. But, I think there's a reason why last year they went into camp expecting Ruiz to be the center and Mcoy to be the guard. And, at this point, things get changed a little bit. Yeah. And you kind of got to just roll with it. But, yeah, I mean, given the circumstances, I'm okay with what they're doing, but I do really like the idea of Mcoy at guard. If you could tell me that, hey, everything's going to work out and you can put these guys wherever and there's not going to be a huge difference in the individual quality of play, that's how I would go about it. But you move him to the guard, and we've said this before, he could have his own issues, and now you got two sets of issues instead of one. And
that's fair.
Yeah,
I remember you wrote an article sometime after the Saints drafted Ruiz in the first round last year, and you just wrote about how McCoy's traits translates to basically elite guard play, right? Yeah. Like he has the measurables, he has the movement, he has everything that you would want out of a guy that can be an elite guard. So, man, I remember that article. It was so good. man, if I find it, I'll maybe put it in chat, and you guys can like go back and read it. It's a really good article. Some of these articles, man.
There's some things you can't pick up on though. Can he play in space?
That's true.
Can he pick up a stunt?
Yeah.
Can you do all these different things? And those are just things you don't know until you see a guy there. But yeah, it does project well. A lot of his traits do project really well to guard.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do, right? Really. I mean, with evidence that you had to work with, that's all you can really do is project. I mean, teams do the same thing when they move a guy to a different position or something along those lines. So, but yeah, it was a good read. You guys want to go back and just kind of see what some of the traits from Mcoy had and how they may translate, then it's a good read. Like I said, some of these things age like fine wine, man. So check them out, especially everything. And to anyone who's new, go back and read some of these articles. It's like we said, it's the off season. There's not a lot of news happening. So if it came out last month, it's still relevant. And if anyone wants to sign up for NewOrleans.Football, make sure you go to NewOrleans.Football/subscribe, pick a tier. We'll shout you out in the pod. Your name will forever be tied to Saints Talk podcast on the internet. So
we got the offer on the screen.
There you go. You can tell your kids. Yeah, free t-shirt. Listen to this. All right, a free t-shirt with a sub. I might even give you one that I got on.
During the live show. Offer ends at the end of the live show.
Yeah, offer ends.
Annual plan.
Right. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys for listening. See you next week. We out.
Yeah. That's
when I say that means ain't no t-shirts. T-shirt gone. So, if anyone's listening, you're not a subscriber, join. It's awesome. I promise you. If you don't like it, first month, let me know. I'll pay it. I'll pay your first month if you don't like it. I just said it on live stream. There we go. That's how confident I am that when they get here, they're gonna stay here. That's just saying. That's a leap of faith, man. You know, that $10 to me, man, that's my whole month's salary. So
nah, come on, man. Don't lie. Come on, you're paid much better than that.
Oh man, I didn't say what for.
You're gonna have like, what's it called now? Defector like looking into my practices with comments like that. No.
The Better Business Bureau going to call you up, but like, hey man,
I'm borderline guaranteeing that you make more per hour doing this podcast than anybody watching it right now. So,
hey man, look, I'm worth it. Who else gonna deal with your bleep?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I got it. It ain't just a podcast. I do more than just a podcast. It's just like I'm like you're a psychiatrist, right? So
what we got next?
What we got next? So I'm just thinking, you're just making a point about Marshawn and his contract reworking. Like, if you had to choose, I think we actually just earlier in the offseason, and I just kind of want to like get a refresher. But if you have to guess what guy would sign first, like which one would you think it would be?
Oh, Ramczyk for sure.
You think it'd be Ram?
We're talking about the guys. Yeah, Ramczyk for sure. They're talking to him right now, so that's the one that as far as what I'm hearing has been prioritized. Now, Marcus Williams could decide immediately, hey, let's do this and sign before any of them. Marshawn, if he decided to, if they're trying to sign him, he could too. Anything could change. But yeah, I think that from what I've heard, the most pressing guy to sign so far has been Ramczyk. And look, I do think that the situation today with Lattimore changes their situations. I think that they were backed into a corner pretty good on all the extension situations, and they were going to have to make a deal with somebody. And Marshawn doing what he did really levels it out, because the car was going towards the cliff, right? And something had to happen to stop the car from going over the cliff. Yeah. And the only moves were to cut someone you need or extend somebody. And you're looking at the team, man, do I really want to cut P-Rob? No, you don't want to cut P-Rob. Man, do I really want to cut Latavius Murray? No, I don't want to cut Latavius Murray. So one of these guys, you got to go to them. But now it's leveled out. And they've really done an amazing job this whole offseason. Somehow they've gotten through the whole thing and gotten to a point where they can add players without being forced into an extension of any of these three guys. And it is incredible that it played out like this. And I continue to think that it is, look, they've done some things pushing money forward that's unfortunate. Their cap situation next year, it's not the greatest, and keeping stuff going forward doesn't help it. But look,
it's working.
I mean, if you can get through it and not sign one of these guys to a deal on their terms, it's a benefit. It's a huge benefit for the team.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, Fontenot tried to take Kyle Harley with him to Atlanta, and bro, nah. if you know, situations were switched, Atlanta would be in them. You know, those guys are like locked down. I mean, it's crazy because just seeing another team that hamstrung over the cap just kind of goes to show you like how like creative the Saints have gotten with these cap moves, because it's just they've never been in that position. And my guess is, I mean, they've been operating under cap restraints for years, and they've just always been able to be competitive and keep a talented roster. And yeah, it just goes to show, man, to the point that you were making, like it's some serious wizardry going on around there, because I just seeing another team go through it, and I'm like, yep, that's what you would expect. But these guys keep figuring out ways to make it happen. So
I don't know if they have as much that's worth preserving in Atlanta. I don't think they're as close. I think the Saints are close enough. The Saints almost knocked off the Super Bowl champions last year with a quarterback that couldn't throw the ball forward. You know, so I think that's something to keep in mind, right? I mean,
that's big.
Everything's framed. Everything's framed through the prism of losing the quarterback, who's going to be the quarterback, and boy, they were winning a lot of games.
Man,
winning a lot of games.
Whole lot. Let me just, you know, take a little. We'll make it. I was about to hit a left. I'm gonna take a right here. Atlanta, they traded Julio, right? They traded Julio. I don't want to make this a Falcon podcast, but like, just real quick, if like make it make sense to me that you would get rid of Julio, but keep Brian, right? Not hit the reset button when you were picking at 4. You know, my only guess is they didn't like any of the quarterbacks there. That just had to be the case.
It's got to be,
because that's the only way I can see that decision making any sense. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is not a Falcon podcast, but I'm just thinking it affects the Saints. It's the Falcons. We can talk about a division team. Maybe we'll do a division preview or something one of these pods. But yeah, I was just wondering, like, you know, what goes through your mind when you're making that decision? I don't know.
It's got to be that you don't like any of the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
or you don't believe in them enough to usher your guy out, and because they knew at that point that Julio was probably gone. They had to expect that trade was coming. Albert Breer had a great article behind the scenes. It seemed to be very clear to them, and I guess Julio's disdain with some of the stuff going on was kept secret because he's private and he requested that and all that. So I think they knew at that point that they had to do something, and they decided to roll with their quarterback. And look, I know quarterbacks are playing much deeper. He doesn't feel like a guy that's going to play till he's 45, and maybe he does. Maybe he does. You know, he's solid. He's probably one of the better 12 quarterbacks in the league. When everything's right around him, we've seen him play it you know, sporadically at an elite level for at least a season. Granted, he had one of the top 4 offensive minds that have, I don't know, at least in the league right now. I don't want to rank them all time, but he's you know, Shanahan's really, really good. He hasn't been that since. He's had some good seasons since then. But yeah, it just doesn't. It feels like if you were resetting now, would be the time to do the whole thing. But it's like you said, it has to be that they didn't like the quarterbacks, and if they didn't, that's the right decision. Go with Pitts. Pitts was arguably the best player in the draft. I think that's you
fair.
know, at least for me, he was. We'll see how it works out in Atlanta.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just if you liked one of the quarterbacks and you didn't do that, that's a weird move. But yeah, it tells me that they didn't like one of those guys. You know where you're at. You're a new GM. You can reset the whole thing. You got a lot of time then, and you're starting with a lot of time. You got a lot of leeway. You can put your own stamp on things. You can trade both those guys, get a lot of assets. Somebody would have gave up a ton for Matt Ryan, a QB desperate team. Probably would have gave up a pretty nice package of picks, and they just didn't do it.
You think maybe a first, maybe a first and a third? He wouldn't get more than Stafford, I don't think.
I mean, that's a good.
Yeah, I don't even know if Ryan gets the first though. I mean.
I think he would have got more than Stafford. I think he would have.
I don't think so. Stafford is still like super talented. Ryan is like, his deep ball is not what it used to be. I don't know. I just think that
Stafford's got a reputation though.
Yeah, but Stafford was in Detroit. No, nothing good comes out of there. Calvin Johnson retired early, Barry Sanders retired early. Like nothing good comes out of that team. Watch how good Stafford is this year with the Rams. Like
he'll probably be great, but I mean, he has a reputation, and
yeah, I would give you that. I would give you that. Yeah, I would give you that. Yeah. But yeah, I just think if you want to compete, it's a very small chance that Pitts is as good as Julio ever. Right? As you drafted a number 4, it's most likely that he's not a Hall of Fame player. So you take Ryan away and you add this guy, and your team is not better. So it's just an interesting move. But they better hope and pray that Mac Jones and Justin Fields are not good quarterbacks. Because man,
I mean, Matt Ryan's definitely older. But I mean, look, if you gave me a choice for the Saints, same compensation, either quarterback, I'd probably take Matt Ryan.
Okay, I think I'd go Stafford.
And I think I'd take Jameis probably over. If you told me Jameis is going to be fine-ish, I'd probably take Jameis over Stafford too.
Oh,
if you could guarantee me an interception level, I would have, and nothing else. If you just said, hey, this is the interceptions, I would have taken Jameis over Stafford too.
I think the Saints just told you the exact same thing that you just said.
But I think I would, with this team where they're at, right situation, I think Matt Ryan's worth more to them than Stafford is. I think you got a better chance of getting to where you want to go with Ryan, perfect infrastructure around them. I think that you would get there.
Yeah.
But look, we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think the Saints agree with you. If they love Stafford, then they would have been in the running with him, right? So I think that's a fair point. Marcus Davenport, guys. Again, Nick dropped some heat today on the website. It's a pretty long article too. It's a nice long read. So make sure you guys go check it out. As always, we're not going to give up everything in the article, but he did say he's working on trying to get his, and you tweeted out that he's working on trying to get his confidence up and trying to get out of his own head, I guess for lack of a better term. So like, what was your, just hearing him say it, right? Like what vibe did you catch from him? Did you feel like he was like maybe still struggling with it, or is it something that you think he has a grip on? Maybe that's not a fair question for you or for him, but just your take on the situation with him trying to deal with that, maybe some of the pressures and things he's dealt with, like since being in the league and maybe being in his head.
I mean, he's probably the most self-aware player that I've. Man, he's up there. He's an extremely self-aware person.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to put it. It's just I feel like he
it's a hard question to describe. It's not a fair question to you.
The way he thinks and processes, I think is just a little bit different. And I think that there's I think he's more emotionally evolved than a lot of people. And I think that he's in touch with, kind of how he's perceived and how he perceives himself more so than others. And I think a lot of guys have kind of just a blind, arrogant confidence. And I think that serves a lot of people really well. I think that's something you kind of got to have as an athlete.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how to get to that point. And he's submarined himself. Look, we know that it's not physical. There's nothing physically missing from him. There's nothing technically missing from him. He can do all these things. He has flashes. It's incredible when it's hitting. And you can, for a few weeks we watch him and think he has the best bull rush in the league, and then suddenly it disappears, and Trey Hendrickson's more productive with much less talent, much less size, much less power on the very same move, because Davenport is, by his own admission, is submarined himself, and he's got to figure that out. That's the only thing. I really truly believe that's the only thing. And it's finding a way to stay on the field. That's two.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me that it's been so close. And by his own admission, it's his mental state holding him back. We'll see how he fixes it.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I struggle a little bit with this topic because I don't know how close this gets to mental health and stuff like that. So I don't want to delve too deep in it. But I think there's this notion that when you watch football players, you want people who just are just detached, just football, everything. And just, And then, you see someone like Davenport, and it's the exact opposite, and you see the struggle, and I feel like it just lends itself to the former a little bit. So, I guess I'll just say, I hope he gets it figured out, whatever he's reading about, or whatever he's doing, because like the talent is there. He's probably one of the most talented players on the entire team, like hands down. Like when he's on and you see him rushing, it looks like he got it figured out. Like it's beautiful. It's like, man, if it's just a little bit more of it. So yeah, I think I respect him for like kind of being open about it and saying that he's working on it, and hopefully he gets that figured out, because he can alleviate a lot of the potential weaknesses that the Saints could potentially have in some other spots. Like say your CB2 doesn't turn out as good, and maybe the will linebacker position is not as good as it was last year neither. Well, if you got a pass rush, that just nullifies like all of that, right? It just nullifies it in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, I think a lot is riding on him, and it would be, just as good. It would be good to see him live up to that status. Just football only, right? Just in terms, this is just a football conversation, nothing else. It'd be real. He's someone that I think he may be one of the most important players, like on this team this year, maybe other than the quarterback in a lot of ways. I know you said Ruiz is one of those guys, but I will put him up there too. And I think we said that in the pod when we spoke.
Look, I mean, I've made a lot of comments about kind of how I feel about Davenport and where he's at and what he's gotten done. And obviously I don't feel like it's been enough. 1.5 sacks is obviously extremely far off the mark. So what I'm about to say isn't an excuse for him as a football player. It's not anything like that. I'm not giving him a pass at all. I think it all has to be better. He thinks it has to be better. So It's fine to hold him to that standard. But I do think that you come in like him, and the way people have talked about him since the minute they acquired him, I think that puts a lot of pressure on you. And if you don't process that the right way, I think it can just become something that becomes an extreme burden. And if you have a game and you miss a sack, and suddenly it's just like, man, these mentions are going to be back. And I don't know if he's on social media, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of conversation about him. If you're look at Peyton Turner, just kind of the avalanche on him. If you don't process that the right way, and you allow these voices to create some doubt on day one, it could very easily become something that you fight forever. And your failures probably feel a lot grander if you allow that stuff to enter your mind. And it would be tough not to. It would be tough not to. I mean, you got all these people tweeting at you. It's tough. Man. And it kind of creates a situation that I can very easily understand how someone could be a little bit aware of this stuff, and then all of a sudden you get this avalanche of criticism right out of the gate just because of where you were drafted, what was spent to draft you. I could see how that could look. It would mess with me. Like if everybody was on me, like right from if I got a job and people were telling me I suck from the minute I tweeted, hey, I'm coming here to do this. Like, no, you suck. Like I kind of feel like that would probably affect me in some manner. Yeah. And you'd have to find the way to overcome it or not. But I could see how anytime something's a little bit off, it would weigh a little bit heavier than it normally would.
No, that's well said. I mean, these people are they're human beings, man. At the end of the day, like you're 20. I don't know how old Davenport was. 22 coming into the NFL, and thousands of fans from one place are like just bombarding you with negativity. I don't know.
I've got emails from like people's dads on draft night, and they're like, "Hey, why are they acting like this?" Like, I don't know. Like, people see that, and then even if the player doesn't, your dad. Look, my dad will read the comments on a story or and be like, "Yo, you want me to get out like 7-4-2-1? Why is he saying this?" Like, dude, like it's the wrong guy, but. Yeah, but people are much more critical of, so even if you're ignoring it, people put it into your radar, and that can affect you. Yeah.
That's a good point, man. That's a good point. I mean, like I said, these guys it's not been good enough on the field, no question. But I just think the pressure that he came in from day one, and if he didn't come out like hot, it's just been not it's not been good for him. And listen, like just on the field, he hasn't been good enough. Right, we're not making an excuse, but as a human being, I mean, I don't think I can handle it either. I mean, someone tweeted something crazy to me today, and I was like, okay, like how I want to come back at this dude, how I want to come back at this fool, like how am I get him? Like one person, and I'm just like, no, I gotta somebody's gonna read this tweet. This tweet gotta be good. Because I'm not gonna let them say this, but I gotta be presentable, public. Some people know me, some people care what I tweet, like you. Yeah, and so I just put that in there. So I gotta be like measured. So for someone to have that type of I mean, listen, the top tennis player in the world like took a break because of something,
Yep.
Yeah. So like, yeah, they're human beings, man. So hey guys, lay off these players. Or if you don't, just keep it football. And just be nice. There we go. What else we got? So I saw some questions early, and yeah, I think it's fine to throw a few of them in as questions for the pod before we start to close here. So if you guys do have any good questions, drop them here, and then I'll see them, and then I'll ask them after the ones I got queued up. Sorry guys, I didn't get to write who wrote the questions because I gotta listen to Nick and write these questions and multitasking. So someone asked earlier, if you asked it, you can put your name in chat and I'll mention it. If Jameis Winston wins the quarterback battle, do you think that Taysom Hill will be TE1? Which is
no, he won't be TE1. No. No, I think if he's TE1, that speaks very poorly to where Troutman's at in his season. I think Troutman would be TE1, Van Eyck would be 2, and Taysom would kind of figure in there. Wild card being Jawan Johnson, we don't know enough about him at this point in that transition. But I don't think he'd be TE1. It'd be interesting to even see kind of how that comes together at this point. Obviously he'd have some type of role, I think. But man, that guy is really focused on the quarterback stuff. Yeah.
So do you think if he doesn't win the quarterback job, do you think he's the backup? Or do you think he's a game day guy? I mean, you can't. Are you the backup or are you the
so backup on game? I think it'd be the same deal, and then maybe Trevor Siemian or someone else is your immediate backup comes in.
Let me rephrase the question. If he's QB2, do you think they use him as much and put him in as much danger as they did when you got? Because if you got Drew and Winston on the team, you feel a lot better. But if you got Winston, Ian Book, and Trevor Siemian there, a little different there. So do you think they are as aggressive or as aggressive with Taysom as they've been in the past if he's QB2?
Yeah, I think they will be. I think they will be. I mean, look, if you lose him and then if you have the doomsday scenario where you lose both, I mean, your season just is what it is at that point. I really think that you kind of just like if your luck's that bad, it's just not your year. And I don't think that you can operate under such
That's fair.
Constraints,
you got to win. You got to try to win every game. I got you.
Hey, man, look, Sean's been weirdly optimistic about Trevor Siemian too. He's brought up his name a lot. I view him as a young quarterback. Is his kind of quote, and he's kind of talking like he feels like he can develop him a little bit too. So maybe they don't feel like it's 1, 2, 3. It might be just be like he might be a little bit closer to that pack. Obviously running behind, but it seems like he feels like there's something there. He's look, you listen to him. I'm just saying, it seems like he's put a little bit of confidence behind some of the stuff Siemian can do.
I think if I went to camp, Sean would probably be like, "Yeah, I can take this kid. He's 38, a little old, but I can groom him." Like Sean's
but he doesn't need to bring him up unprompted and kind of create.
Yeah, but I think
some attention and expectation. Sean's very aware, and he knows if he says his name, people could be like, "Hey, what?" That puts a little bit more on him. Nobody really picked up on it, but he's said his name a few times, and I gotta think it's kind of deliberate. Like, hey, don't forget, like this guy's here, and there's a little bit something there, and it might just be obviously as a backup, but he might be a solid backup. They might feel like they could get by with him, and that maybe doesn't change what you have. And if they didn't think that he was a solid backup, I think they would have been
more aggressive.
Yeah, somehow getting another quarterback, because at that point you can't use Taysom, and if you don't have that backup, you're kind of losing a position that you like. So I think they'll still use him the same way if he doesn't. The other thing though that I've kind of heard people have said, oh well, they'll obviously go with Jameis because you can use Taysom in this role and you're a better team with both guys. I don't think that's how the decision is going to be made. I think if it's close, maybe at that point, coin flip, sure, you go with Jameis. But I think if it were clear that Taysom's better than Jameis, I don't think you make a decision to have Taysom in this other role. I think that it will just be whoever's a better quarterback is going to win the job.
Yeah, and you always speak about, like, you can lose the team, you can lose the team, you can lose the team. If a guy's better and you're not playing a better player, then you do run that risk, because these guys are putting it out on the line every day. So if they don't feel like you're giving them the best chance to win, that's not.
Look, and if you were making that decision that, hey, like, we have to have Taysom in this role, you just have Taysom in the role, straight up. Taysom, you had your shot at quarterback last year, didn't work out. You're on the team, you're under contract. This is what we're doing with you, and proceed or don't, or let us know you don't want to. Like, that's how you would probably make that decision. You wouldn't be like, we're gonna go through this battle and then all this stuff. Like, if it was very clear that you had to have Taysom in that role, and there's no competition, there's no competition. So, yeah.
That's true. That's fair. That's a fair point. Let's see, a couple of questions on screen. I'll just throw those in while I see them. Adrian, what's up, man? If Jameis wins the quarterback battle and has an above average year, do you think he could win comeback player of the year?
You saw them odds, huh? You saw them odds. I saw them odds too. Somebody tweeted the odds on him winning comeback player of the year. Yeah, I think if he has a good season, he would be very much in that mix. Absolutely. That is not gambling advice, but I think if he was in that mix, I mean, obviously, right? I mean, it would be a story. I think if he's, solid, and I think the team will help him win more games, I think it would be very easy for him to win that award if he's a starter and he performs well.
Okay.
And he probably should.
Okay. Next question. I don't know what happened there. All right. Seriously. Byron said, if Davenport and Turner both play well, what do you think the split looks like? Does one play DT more? It's a good question. Hopefully they run into that. Now, that's not even a problem. That's a situation. But go ahead. What you got?
They both play well. Who would play DT more? I think it would probably be Davenport. I think Davenport would probably move to the inside. He did that a little bit last year too. I think he probably moved to the inside. I think it's probably easier for him to. And he said today that he's preparing to rush from multiple positions and things like that. So yeah, I think it would probably be Davenport more inside.
Okay. Is Marshawn Lattimore more tradable with a $1 million salary? I can help you with that. Yes.
Everybody can afford him.
It
would be crazy to trade him at this point with nothing else there. It would be
You trade him before you make that move. You don't make that move you don't make that move that they made and then trade him. Like, you try to trade him, because put that money on someone else's books. Right?
Unless you felt like you were buying a draft pick, but I don't know if they have the money to buy a draft pick.
They can't buy no draft picks. Not the first. You got to buy like a 7th or something with the way they.
Now, if they had traded up 2 firsts and got one of the other top tier cornerbacks, then I think that Lattimore would be more tradable at this point, because you'd have that guy, and if you felt like he wasn't part of your future, and if you felt like okay, we're going to sign Garyon Conley or Richard Sherman or somebody else, maybe you get out a year early and get your pick back.
Okay.
But where they're at right now, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. They've done a lot to preserve this team. Getting significantly worse, I think, would be, I'd look at that crazier than a Falcons situation. So it would make no sense to me.
Okay. All right. Now, just the question about T1 was from Ant Marshall. So I just wanted to give Ant credit for his questions. Thanks for the question, man. This question is from let's see, ENT. That's all we're gonna say is ENT. Do you think Winston is talented enough to push the Saints to the Super Bowl?
What's everybody else doing on the team? How well is everybody else playing?
Well,
is cornerback solved? Do they have interior? The interior pass rush, is it solid? It should be. Can they stop the run on the interior? Is the interior protection good? Is tight end solid? If everything else comes together, the high end talent on the roster, maybe, but I think they would have to have perfect health, perfect circumstances. Those interceptions that just show up for destined teams, they'd have to start showing up. All that stuff has to come together for them. Second wide receiver needs to distinguish himself. All the questions we have would have to be answered to the absolute best.
Pinnacle of best case scenario everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll give my
take. I think they're thin. So just period. Like if you told me Breeze was back and having a 2018 season, I feel like, it would be the same answer, that all this stuff around them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good answer. Is he talented enough? Yes. And I think you agree with that. But will he play? I think the question that you answered, will he play longer? Will he play well enough? Talented. He's the most talented quarterback the Saints have had on this roster. Physically talented, just as far as ability to throw the ball is. He's the number one pick in the draft. He is talented enough, but will he play well enough? Will be.
Look, I think he has the potential to become now 17-week win because player. Like, an Aaron Rodgers is a 17-week win because player. But I think throughout Jameis's career, and I think this is extremely fair to put it this way, that he's been quite often a guy that you can win with. Every now and then he'll have games that you win because of him. Yeah. But it's not every week that you win because of Jameis Winston. And he has the arm talent. He has everything to eventually become that in the right situation, but he hasn't yet. And until you do, there's just no way that you can say that about him.
Yeah,
he's in a battle. He's in a battle with Taysom Hill to be a starting quarterback right now, right? I mean, so figure that out. Figure out display that the development's good, and then maybe you're at that point. But winning a Super Bowl because of Jameis Winston today is not something that I'm comfortable saying is. Could it become that? Sure.
Yeah.
Today, no, I can't say that.
Yeah, I'm not even going near. I think I'm not even going near Super Bowl. I would say just start with like playoffs, right? Just start there, and we'll see what happens. So you mentioned Conley being your favorite quarterback fit. What's this appeal over Sherman and Kilpatrick other than age?
So, yeah, I put him over Kirkpatrick and Sherman. Just look, I like his fit as a press corner. I think he's been really, really good as a press corner throughout his career. And I like that ability over, Sherman's not necessarily a cover one press guy in his career. He's not necessarily a cover four press guy. He's done it okay at times. And Kirkpatrick, same thing. He's not a press corner. He's been decent in some zone looks, but that's really not been the strength of his game. Conley, by far the best aspect of his game has been his press coverage. Saints were, I think, like 67% press looks last year, maybe 70. It was a pretty high amount. Yeah. And I think that he could come in and do that stuff. And obviously he's younger. I think he has the upside to where if you found a situation where he worked, you could have him around for a little while. And it could be one of those situations where you ride the wave and then eventually the wave dissipates and he goes back to kind of what he's been over 4 years. But we've seen specifically with this team the ability to bring guys in and kind of have them catch lightning in a bottle. DB coach is different, so maybe that circumstance is changed. But I think that he's someone that could really ride a wave in the right situation. Being around other Ohio State guys, I think that matters to some degree, just being comfortable with what you're doing. Yeah. Him and Lattimore played together in college. I think they could kind of, I think Lattimore could probably help him with the shorthand and just kind of get up to speed really quickly. Yeah. And some different things and that communication and all that. So yeah, I think those would be the reasons that I would prefer him.
Yeah, good point. Keep going back to that Ohio State well, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it started off as a joke, but see what happens. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us today. Thank you guys for joining. Again, I want to apologize for being a little bit tardy today. Try to clean that up. Thank you guys for supporting the site. Thank you guys for joining us on the stream. Make sure you guys go to NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Bunch of different options there. Nobody wanted their t-shirt today. That's okay. More t-shirts for me. Tell someone about the site. Thank you guys for continuing to support. We will have the members only pod coming later this week. So if you're interested in things like that, hearing me and Nick talk about things that are behind, things that are on the site, things that are in the article, kind of being more open speaking about some of that stuff. That'll be the place for you. With that said, stay tuned to NewOrleans.Football. Everything based on and centered around the New Orleans Saints will be there. So check it out. With that said, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.